Well, good morning. It's Sunday morning. It's 11 o'clock, and it's time once again for the House Whisperer Show on WWDB Talk 860. I'm Barry Reisman, inviting you to stay tuned for expert advice about maintaining your house from the roof to the basement and everything in between, featuring the guy that tells us that every house has a story, professional home inspector Jack Milne. Jack has a return guest. How you doing this morning, Jack?
Hey, I'm great, Barry. You know, here it is, the end of September. I don't know where it went, but, I'm going to be focusing over the next few shows, over the next couple weeks, about how to prepare for winter. I mean, it seems like we just got past the warmest summer of the century here. And but I'm a fall guy. I love the fall. It's, I guess being a professional home inspector, I've seen way too many attics where the temperatures can exceed 150, 160 degrees. And then, and then here we go into the fall. So it gives me a chance to relax a little bit and really start to enjoy the weather a little bit more. But you're right, Barry. I'm bringing Mike Cantor back on, who's from Pest Blaster, and he's been a regular on the old House Whisperer show. And I thought that with the changing of the seasons, it might be good to prepare for what I call the onslaught of the little critters that invade our homes when the temperatures drop and the warmth of our homes is better than the cold weather outside. But before we really start with Michael, I have to thank my sponsors because without them, I wouldn't be able to chat with you today. So, Michael, why don't you start on behalf of Pest Blaster?
Well, I appreciate that, Jack, and thanks for having me on again. Pest Blaster, we're based out of Hamilton, New Jersey, and we service both New Jersey and Pennsylvania for all insects, rodents, animals, and we offer professional inspection services for termites and radon and mold. And we can basically help the clients with any of those things. Any calls. New Jersey, we like 609-393-0606. Pennsylvania, 215-295-5555. And we invite all the listeners to check us out on the web at pestblaster.com.
Michael, I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, let's also bring back Bucksmont Inspections, Rob Bowie. We had him on the air just a few weeks ago talking about on-site sewage systems and their maintenance. And just because the winter season the season start to turn a little bit, don't forget about that area on your back or front yard that requires maintenance at least every couple of years by pumping that sewage tank. Borough Exterminating out of Glenolden, Pennsylvania. They are very good at the termite and radon testing, and you can reach out to them at 610-586-5640, and their website is boroughexterminating.com. BrainFleshGear.com, eclectic sportswear, you want it made, they'll do it for you. You have designs, and they are creative as well, and they'll put together anything that you're looking for. And you can find them also via email at contact@brainfleshgear.com. Tri-County Inspection Company. In July, we celebrated our 30th year, and I love that little accolade. But we service 15 counties. So if you'd like to find us, you can always go to our website at tcinspect.com. As to phone numbers in the Bucks and Montgomery County areas, 215-295-2030. Delaware County, 610-296-2004. North Jersey, 609-882-5188, and South Jersey at 856-853-4224. So as I always ask, please let our sponsors know that you heard their ad on the House Whisperer Show. We're actually going to hold on to the email box this week so we can spend the time with Michael. But all emails are welcome to the housewhispershow@gmail.com. All previous shows are available at thehousewhispershow.com. And day after day, www.dbam.com has those podcasts available from now until next Sunday. So let's get started with Michael from Pest Blaster. So, Michael, at this time of year, what kind of pests are going to be invading our homes? What do you look for, or what should our buyers listen for?
It's funny. They're not going to be. They're already, as the weather just starts to cool down a little bit here and there. Mice are always the most common invader this time of the year, and as we head into the winter months, we're already getting calls for them. So the season is starting fairly early this year, I guess, even though the weather hasn't gotten that cold at all yet. But they're already starting to come in. So they're the most common invader this time of the year and throughout the winter. And then you get other things like rats, depending on the area that your home is based in. But other things can come in too. Certain insects like to invade homes this time of year, along with wild animals. Certain animals like to come in and, like everybody else, they want to be warm and they want to find a nice cozy place to keep warm in the wintertime.
Well, how do you find that they get in? What's your favorite nooks and crannies that you like to share?
Well, mice can really squeeze through anything, and that's what we try to emphasize to our customers. If you took a dime, a full-grown mouse could fit into a hole the size of a dime because of their soft skeletal system. So you really want to walk around the outside of your house, anywhere where there's wires or pipes or anything coming into the foundation. You want to make sure that it's really properly sealed. You want to take a walk around, check around doors, around garage doors, make sure they're all properly sealed, because if they can get, the littlest opening, they're going to squeeze through. This time of the year, they become desperate. So they not only want to get in, they're going to do everything they can to get it. So like I said, the sweeps under a garage door, you want to check that because that's a hot spot for them. But really it comes down to any opening the size of a dime around the outside of your home. You really want to make sure if you can put a dime up to it and it's the same size, you want to fill it and you want to seal it sooner rather than later, because most people wait until they already have a problem to address that issue. And, very simply, you go around the outside of your house and you can use steel wool, foam insulation, cement, anything to seal up any opening the size of a dime. Now, if you have rats, that's more the size of about a quarter or about a half inch. So if you see them around the outside of your home, same thing. You don't want them getting in your home because, unlike mice, rats can actually do damage once they get into the home. So, again, just go around the outside, check that foundation, any wires, any piping, anything running into the home, just make sure it's completely sealed.
And they're excellent climbers, too.
They walk vertically up a house if they want to.
I've seen too many houses where their electric panels are missing a little plug in the very top of the panel. And when I always inspect a panel looking at the top, and if I see a hole where my finger can go through, the next thing I do is I set my glance down to the bottom of the panel. And I've seen mice make almost condominiums out of the bottom of the distribution panel with their nuts, their insulation, and their bedding. And I'm just amazed at how many times they can come in and out of a panel without getting electrocuted. Some of them do. But they're mischievous. So let me ask you this, Michael. What do we do to get rid of them once they are in our house?
Well, I mean, if we're dealing with mice, and that's usually the common thing this time of the year. The best way to get rid of them once they're in the home is by positioning bait traps. Usually the lowest level of the home, whether that be a basement or a crawl space, those areas get baited the heaviest because that's usually the area they're going to be most comfortable in and spend the most of their time in. We also like to bait attic areas too because, again, that's another spot where there's no one to bother them up there. They have the insulation up there that they use to build nests with. So what we like to do is focus on those areas, place bait boxes in strategically placed areas where we know they're going to come across it. And then, we also do the main levels of the home. There's certain spots. Usually it's where if you have baseboard heat where the piping runs up. Underneath the kitchen sink is a hot spot. A lot of times the plumbing that runs up from below, they'll walk straight up that pipe into the kitchen. Same with the gas line for the stove. If it's a gas stove, those are areas that they really like to hang around in because that's one of the main spots they're going to get their food is in the kitchen area. So they're always going to migrate in there, so we like to bait those areas. And the way the poison works is we position it, like I said, in strategically placed areas where we know they're going to come across it, and it has a scent that attracts them. They go after the poison, and they'll start nibbling on it. What it will then do is dehydrate them, because most people say, well, I don't want mice dying in my home, and we completely understand that. We wouldn't want it either. If you go to Home Depot or a hardware store or a do-it-yourself store, chances are the poison you're buying is a poison that as soon as the mice digest it, they're just going to drop it dead wherever they are. The way our poison works, like I was saying, is it actually dehydrates them. So they have to find a source of water. Generally, that water is not going to be accessible in the home for them, so they're going to have to go outside to find it. The chemical reacts once they drink the water. So when they drink the water, that's when they'll drop dead. So the difference between our treatment method and going to a store and doing it yourself is the actual poison that we're using. Like I said, they'll go outside, they'll die, so you don't have to worry about finding dead mice laying around, having odors that you don't know where they're coming from. That's really the best way to treat for mice because it's a one-time thing. We put the poison down, the mice go for it, and generally that's going to be the end of it. Now, a lot of people say, well, we don't want poison in our home. What can you do? And we do offer other methods of treatment, or what we call monitoring and trapping, where we can set out glue traps, snap traps, things like that, for people that don't want poison. And same thing with the poison, we strategically place it in areas where we think they're going to come across, but we also try to keep it out of the areas or the view of the homeowners or anybody else that would be coming to the home, because nobody wants to walk around and see a mouse on a glue board or a mouse half stuck in a snap trap.
Hey, on that happy note, can we just take a little break here and come right back with our special guest? It's the House Whisperer Show with Jack Milne, and today's special guest is Mike Cantor of Pest Blaster, and we'll be right back talking more about mice and rats and all those other good things right after this.
Boro Exterminating has been specializing in wood-destroying insect inspection and control for over 40 years, serving Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. All inspectors are state certified and ensure providing their clients with professional inspections and treatments. Boro not only performs conventional termite treatments, but also handles special services like historic buildings and homes with wells, creeks, or ponds. The client is assured that all treatments will be performed safely when you hire Boro to do the work. They also provide radon testing in their service area. Boro's full-time office staff is available to help you schedule an appointment. Just call 610-586-5640 or send an email request to boroinspects@verizon.net. That's 610-586-5640 or email at boroinspects@verizon.net.
Specially created t-shirts by BrainFlushGear.com offer the extreme sports enthusiast an opportunity to have a clothing line available that suits their sport. BrainFlushGear.com understands that when we get the moment where we can jump on our motorcycles, wave runners, surfboards, snowmobiles, or skateboards, it can be priceless. They offer custom artwork including silk screening, transfers, and embroidery. Speak to one of their consultants today and they'll help you create your own Brain Flush. Visit BrainFlushGear.com or email them at contact@BrainFlushGear.com.
For your septic inspection and testing needs, please consider Bucksmont Inspections. They've been serving the Bucks and Montgomery County areas for over 15 years. As members of the Pennsylvania Septic Management Association, the Pennsylvania Association of Sewage Enforcement Officers, and the Pennsylvania Association for Professional Soil Scientists, Bucksmont Inspections can inspect your existing septic system or test for your new septic system placement. Please call Rob Bowie at 215-669-4213 and say you heard their ad on the House Whisperers Show.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 30 years. For all of your real estate transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295 855-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They have performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They are licensed in both Philadelphia and New Jersey. Call 215-295-2030 or 856-853-4224.
As the weather gets cooler and the temperatures drop, the bugs might slow down, but the rodents don't stop. Mice and rats begin to invade homes during the fall and winter months, looking for food, warmth, and a comfortable place to nest. Don't wait for pesky rodents to invade your home. Fight back. Have your home baited and ready for their attack with Pest Blaster. Whether preventative or a full-blown infestation, give Pest Blaster a call at 215-295-5555 and they can discuss the solution to your problem. They also offer humane animal removal services for a wide variety of wild animals, damage repairs, and cleanups. Call them today at 215-295-5555 or check them out at pestblaster.com, servicing both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Pest Blaster, 215-295-5555 or pestblaster.com for all your pest control needs.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house.
Okay, we're back with Jack Milne, the House Whisperer at WWDB, and today's special guest, who's always interesting, always fascinating, Mike Cantor of Pest Blaster. And Mike and Jack, let's pick it up where we left off.
Well, thank you, Barry. Michael, before we go into phase 2 here, once again, why don't you share your information with our listeners?
Sure. Listeners in New Jersey can contact us at 609-393-0606. In Pennsylvania at 215-295-5555. And we invite all your listeners to check us out on the web at pestblaster.com.
You know, Michael, is this true? Is this a true thing, or is this a rumor thing that mice generally will walk the perimeters of rooms and they don't really scan across what I would call the field? Do they tend to stick to the perimeters?
Unless you startle them or scare them, they're going to generally follow baseboards. That's usually what they do. Now, if there's one that happens to be in the room and you walk in and disturb it, it might run across the room and scare you, but for the most part, they stay along the baseboards.
Now, here's an interesting question. What percent of attics have evidence of mice? 90%? 95%?
Pretty close to 100, but no, I would say in that 80 to 90 percentile. I mean, you might not see it just popping up there, but if you really walk around, look at the insulation, a lot of times you'll see at the very least droppings on the insulation or on the boards, depending on how it's set up. But I mean, like we said before, attic spaces are a very popular spot for mice because of the insulation up there. They love it for nesting material. Nobody's up there to bother them. So it's definitely a hot spot and a place that mice really like to nest and spend the winter.
Yeah, it's amazing how many times I come out of an attic and you've got, the clients, did you see any mice up there? Well, we didn't see any mice physically where they kind of pop out and say, yo, Jack. But, you can see mice trails and mice droppings. So when I get a young lady who's a little bit afraid of mice, I said, listen, if you have one mouse up there, you might have 3. But if you had roaches up there, you had 3 roaches, you got 3,000 roaches. So I try to calm them down that way, and I think most of the time it works. But it's, again, knowledge is a wonderful thing. Now, here's a great topic, Michael. You're laying in bed at night, and you hear, sounds above you during that quiet time of night. What do you think could possibly be above our heads in our attics, besides those little critters?
Well, we get that call a lot this time of the year, and believe it or not, a lot of times it is mice. But like we were talking about before, too, animals like to access homes this time. What we usually get are raccoons and squirrels. They seem to be the most popular invader in the fall and winter months. But if you hear rumbling and it sounds like somebody's actually jumping in your attic, that generally tells you that it's not a mouse. It's more than likely some type of animal. And like I said, usually it's going to be a raccoon or a squirrel. They're the most popular invaders this time of the year.
I mean, a raccoon is a pretty good-sized creature. How do they typically get in?
Well, generally raccoons are going to either chew their way in one way or another if they really want to get in. What we usually find is soffits seem to be a hot spot for them to climb through. If there's any opening in the roof or the littlest tiny area that they see that gives them some opening to get into the attic, they will actually chew their way in to get in. But I would say soffits, I would say attic vents, or if they're not properly sealed, then they can get around them. But those are generally the areas they're going to get in. But soffits are usually their most popular spot to access a home. If there's any opening in the soffit for them to squeeze through, they're going to try to get in that way. And the second area, like I said, would be the roof itself. They would actually try to chew their way in or destroy their way in to get into the roof.
Now, bats, I know this is kind of on topic and off topic, but bats at this time of year, too, are making their way in. And one thing about bats is you can't kill them. You're not allowed to kill bats anymore.
No, you're not.
So they've got these one-way, I call them gates, where if they can only fly out, but they can't fly back in. Now, let me ask you, Michael, what about insects? What kind of insects do you start to see at this time of year?
Not that you start to see, it's what still hangs around this time of the year. Most insects die off, in the fall and winter months when the weather gets colder. But we do see certain insects that still, fight hard throughout the fall and winter to stay going. And generally, stink bugs are the ones that, no matter what time of year it is, we're going to find them. People are going to call with them. People are going to have them in their homes. We get activity when it's snowing out. People are calling with stink bugs. They're one insect that basically survives throughout the entire year, no matter what the climate is. Roaches are another one. People that, if you get roaches in your home, you can get them in the summer just as easy as the winter time. Spiders, they hang around too all winter. They come in more this time of the year. This is when they really start to come into the home as opposed to webbing outside of the home to catch insects. They like to come in where it's safer for them and hope that they can find something inside to trap and feed off of. Ladybugs are also another one that we see activity in the wintertime. They're not that bad, but we still get some calls for them in the winter. And I would say those four insects are probably the most common ones that we deal with throughout the fall and winter months.
How about carpenter ants?
If they're nesting in a home, yes. But generally, if they're nesting in a home, there's going to be activity throughout the home, and the customer is usually going to see that usually around this time of year. This is when you're really going to see, like, summer into fall. If you're seeing big black ants walking around your home when the weather gets cooler, and when I say cooler, I mean, 30, 40 degrees outside, that's a problem. That means that more than likely you have a colony or a nest of carpenter ants in your home, and they're not just going to go away once they're in. You don't get the activity outside like you get in the summer and spring months where, you might just see big black ants walking around the sidewalk or your walkway to your house or even on your house for that matter. But, simple ways to prevent them just real quick. You want to keep all the trees and bushes and shrubs off the house. You don't want anything touching the house, hanging over the house. And not only for carpenter ants, but for insects in general. And like you were saying before, even for squirrels. Anything touching the house or hanging over the house, it gives insects, rodents, animals a pathway to get to your house easily. So that's really what I push to customers as far as the one main thing they can do to try to limit insects from invading their homes this time of the year is trim back bushes, trim back shrubs, cut back trees. You're going to cut back on your insects.
Yeah, it's amazing how many houses I see where you have branches in direct contact with the roof surface.
Oh, yeah, we see it a lot.
Yeah, it's like a bridge.
That is what it does. It works as a bridge, yeah.
And then not only are you damaging your shingles, and of course during the winter months, we may be losing some leaves, but then we also have snow loads to contend with too. So, sometimes it's nice to have shade over your structure, but at the same time, make sure that they're never in direct contact with your roof, because that can lead to issues. And So, Michael, what about service contracts? Why don't you talk about what Pest Blaster can offer for that?
Sure. And that's the one thing that I try to push to customers when they're concerned about everything, insects, rodents, whatever it may be. We offer what I call like a quarterly service plan. Some companies have big fancy names for it, but we just call it quarterly service for our home. And basically what that entails is we come out every 3 months. We do a chemical treatment for insects, and we also do a bait treatment for rodents. So basically you're taking care of everything in one shot. Now, the chemicals we apply them to the interior and exterior of the home. They're completely safe for anybody that would be in the home. If you have any infants or young children under the age of 2, we would probably tell you to take them out for a little bit. But besides that, everybody else is fine if they're in the home while we're treating. And basically, like I said, we treat the inside of the home, the outside of the home for insects. And what that's going to do is going to have a constant barrier outside of the home that's going to prevent insects from accessing the home. And if they do somehow get into the home, they're not going to be able to make it very far because there's a constant residual chemical that's applied in the home that even once the 3 months goes up, we put another chemical treatment down. That chemical is going to be there another couple months to give the customer the residual on the baseboards and around the outside of the home. So if insects, like I said, try to access, or if they get into the home, they're not going to make it very far where they're going to infest. And like I was saying before, as part of that service, we also set the home up for mice, or for the possibility of mice infesting the home or coming into the home.
Folks who need to reach out to Michael, give him a call at 215-295-5555. They are based out of Hamilton, New Jersey, but they cover what, Michael? About 6 or 7 counties. So they're out there
easily.
Yeah.
Easily 6-7 counties.
So next week, I'm going to actually have my brother Scott Milne on the air, and he is with National Energy Consultants. The guy is so green he grows moss, as I like to joke with him. So as it is Sunday, I ask that you please spend time with friends and family, and we'll talk to you next week on the House Whisperer Show.
Okay, thank you, Mike Cantor and Jack Milne, and tune in again next week for another edition of the House Whisperer Show. You can check out the website, housewhisperershow.com. I'm Barry Reisman. Thanks for listening to WWDB Talk 860.